Here's a guide I've put together with my thoughts on hardcore progression in Diablo 4. I discovered the joy of hardcore probably 12 months ago, so I have more experience under my belt and want to share what I've learned. One of the most notable things I've learned, it's kind of hard to find D4 hardcore content, so this is my step at solving this problem. This guide is split into topics that start with the broadest possible thinking, then get more detailed and specific. It assumes that you know the game well and have experience of the endgame in softcore mode. Exposure. In hardcore mode, you always run the risk of dying, losing all the progress on that character. At any given time, you run the risk of wiping out to start from scratch, which, if it's your fault, is all fair and part of the game. You just need that lesson to make fewer dumb mistakes. However, this is an online game that you're probably running on Windows. Once you've got your head around hardcore gameplay, technical issues are the far more likely cause of death. To manage this, we want to think about the duration of a given activity. At any given point, your internet could drop, or the client could crash, or Windows blue screens. Once you log back in and see your character has died, that's a seriously unfun way to lose a hardcore character. The idea then is to minimize the time spent doing anything at all. Only do the activities that are short and sharp. You want mobs to die in 1 or 2 shots, and ideally bosses are dead in under 5 seconds. This way, you're spending as little time as possible exposed to the risks of technical issues. I refer to this idea as reducing your exposure. Leveling. The trick here is level smooth. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Don't examine every item as a possible upgrade, only swap out gear between long sessions of leveling. Fill up a stash tab with interesting items, and then when you hit level 20, spend some time building a set for 20 and 20 plus. Then do that again around level 30, around 40, and then again around at 50. Constantly stopping to fiddle with gear slows you down. Once you have a good set, keep that in the stash for the next generation. Use potions and incense for XP bonuses, but you know that's the basics of leveling. When you hit level 40, that's a good time to do strongholds. Strongholds are a great source of XP, and they'll see you through to level 55 or 60 easy. Don't do the ones with long cutscenes, you just want to smash them out as quick as possible. Leveling will happen mostly in Hell Tides. Get the embers, get chests, get baleful hearts, kill the blood maiden, get more embers. A nice self-reinforcing loop. I've had many happy times holding back the hordes of hell in hardcore. It's really good vibes. Oh, also don't forget the ashes from the season journey. They're a good boost to XP. Early endgame. Eventually you hit level 60, and all sorts of things come online to increase your power. Higher tier gear, which you can get from gambling, from Hell Tides. Hell Tides are great to run until you've got ancestral gear, mostly with the stats you want. They're also a good source of whisper caches, but we'll cover that in a little bit. Glyphs are a great source of power, and they drop everywhere. They're only leveled up in the pits, though. Obdicite for masterworking, which drops from Nightmare Dungeons and Infernal Hordes. Sometimes you can get it from the Undercity as well if you can find a tribute of refinement. Paragon levels, great source of increasing power. Just get XP from doing stuff. Pit is probably the fastest source of XP for Paragon levels. Upgrade your gems. So get gem fragments, get gold, so just play the game. Upgrade legendary aspects, just play the game. Upgrade your tempering recipes by just playing the game. There's also something else that comes online, which is killing bosses to try and fish for mythic items. Don't try this as a fresh 60. Not worth it yet. At this point, the best way to scale up power is glyphs and obs of sight. What I do is build my confidence up one level at a time to a level 20 or so pit. This unlocks Torment 1. Then I chain run Nightmare Dungeons. If you want to make that feel more efficient, you can stack up the dungeons that are offering grim favours. You do this by picking a zone, usually Nahantu, and spamming as many sigils as you can at the occultist. Salvage the ones that aren't in the zone you're interested in, so basically keep an eye out for green ones. Do this and you can pretty quickly build up a good collection of Nightmare Dungeon sigils. And then, when the dungeons refresh, you're able to open a Nightmare Dungeon that also gives grim favours, which means more Whisper Caches. So in those initial Nightmare Dungeon runs, you're earning Obdicite, collecting glyphs, but not leveling them, unfortunately. You're getting Paragon XP, you're getting new gear, you're getting gem fragments, you're getting tempering recipes, legendary aspects to upgrade, and Whisper Caches. Look at all these sources to improve your power, all through this one activity. The fresh 60 in Torment is the fastest that you can build up your power. It's all just stacks up from there. And that's what you want. Do the things that stacks as many ways to build your power. It won't be long till you're one-shotting bosses in the Torment 1 dungeons. That's the time to hit some of the bosses. You'll probably have some materials to summon them by that time. They'll have dropped from your activities that you're doing. The Undercity is a good place to get some if you've got the tributes. But really, just zone out in a Helltide for an hour or two. You'll get plenty of boss summoning materials there. Just mind your exposure. Keep an eye on what boss is offering grim favours as well. So then you can stack up even more power, getting more whispers. Once you've got a few Whisper Caches, don't open them. Roll an alt and open on that one. This alt becomes your extra life. Don't salvage the gear you're upgrading to. Your main gets new gear, put that old gear into the stash, and that goes to your alt as hand-me-downs. Helps. The pit. This is the grindy phase. This is where you're probably most at risk if you're not careful. Keep doing the activities that get you the most power sources we've described above. But once you've got all your glyphs for your build, integrate some pit runs to level them up too. Here's how to safely progress the pit in hardcore. Once you've got all the glyphs you want to level, you're right to start this process. To pick the pit level you want to take the safe route and level up one rank at a time. You want to finish your pit run in under 3 minutes to reduce exposure. You want to be one or two shotting the bosses. You want them dead in a few seconds. If you're starting to stress out on bosses, take a break from pushing pits. Go farm some Obdicite till you got a bit more power. Pit levels are important relative to your glyph levels. If your pit is 10 or more levels above your glyph, it's 100% guaranteed to upgrade that glyph. This is great and easy to achieve. And if you're completing pits 20 levels or higher than your glyphs, it'll give you 2 levels. 30 and above gives you 3. But I think that caps at around level 15. And for the 3 level bonus, and level 40 for the 2 bonus. But that's still plenty of headroom to get the glyphs to where they need to be quickly. There are 2 important points you want to hit with your glyphs. Level 15, which increases the radius of the glyph, and level 46, which activates its legendary bonus. So the process goes like this. Check your glyphs. Open up your Paragon board, check your glyphs. Look at the second one from the left. Add 20 to that number, or 10 if you're being conservative. That's the pit level you want to target. If my glyph is at level 50, I want to be running level 60 pits. So I can guarantee levels whenever I upgrade it. When opening the pit, particularly around a torment boundary, check your armor and resists to ensure that they're still capped. Then, when you're finished your pit run, upgrade all the glyphs from right to left. The game sorts them in descending level order, so that way you'll always be leveling up your lowest level glyphs. You only need to do the highest pit level that is going to level up your glyph. Anything else is slower and unnecessary exposure. Changing it up to Infernal Hordes. Once you're sick of pits and nightmare dungeons, it's time to try Infernal Hordes. The problem with these is they take a long time to run, so they're the biggest exposure of all the possible activities. But the Obdicite does make them tempting. If you're going to run them, the trick is to always pick the Hellborn upgrades. If there are no Hellborn upgrades to pick Exalted Hordes, then anything that upgrades your elites, then Spires, then lastly anything for masses. But you'd have to be pretty desperate to pick something that upgrades masses. The best upgrades to get are Surging. That increases the number of mobs dropping ether, as well as the amount of ether that they drop, which does scale nicely once you stack other upgrades that increase the drop rate. Always pick the maximum Obdicite from the reward chests. Everything else you can source elsewhere. Torment Progression. Knowing when you are safe to bump the difficulty can be hard. But start by getting a good stack of resist gear so that you always have your resist max. You want your armor to be 1,000 and your resists to be 70%. Then be aware that each torment level drops your resists by 25% and your armor by 250. So keep an eye on that as you push on upward. Use gems, tempers and masterworking rolls to get the resistance and armor numbers you need. It's never worth the risk of going in without the best possible protection. Get to know that alchemist, particularly for his incenses, the Song of the Mountain and Soothing Spices. They can really help fill the gap in gearing for a while. Once your resists and armors are at your caps and you're 4 out of 12 masterworked on all your items and you got your glyphs to level 15, it's time to think about Torment 2, which you inch your way up to. Work your way up to level 35 pits one at a time, which you'll have already done if you've been leveling up your glyphs using that glyph level plus 20 rule, and they're at level 15. Then do it all again in Torment 2. Wait till you hit 8-12 masterworks. Get your glyphs to level 30. So if that level 49 pit boss is going down quick, it's time to work on Torment 3. But from there, don't rush into Torment 4. The Obdicite drop rates are tempting. But even if you're surviving okay, if it's taking a long time to down mobs, you are increasing your exposure. It's always better to grind lower torments than risk increased exposure, trying to get a bigger but slower payoff. Work your way up to 12-12 masterworking in Torment 3. Use the Nightmare Dungeon Whisper stacking trick too. So that'll feel like a better time investment to trick your monkey brain that it's trying to convince you that it can push into Torment 4. And Andriel. I avoid her in higher torments. The difficult to avoid mechanics with that tormented debuff that punishes not being able to avoid mechanics, combined with her fight structure, means that even if you 1 or 2 shot her, you still have to do that totem phase at least once. This all adds up to being too much exposure. To be safe, I want to be killing bosses in a couple, not tiptoeing through burning tulips. I don't think I'm alone there either. There's always people in trade selling shackles and pin-cushion dolls. So it seems like that fight is a lot of people. So it seems like a fight that a lot of people choose to avoid. However, those summoning materials do stack up in your bag, screaming, "We're potential runes! Turn us into mythics!" Well, that starts to get on my nerves after a while. So eventually I roll up an alt and kill her in Tier 1. So eventually I roll up an alt and kill her in Torment 1. Just to clear the bag space of her summoning materials and silence those voices. It's easy in Torment 1 to one-hit her. You kill the totems, then you smack her once more, before that horrific giant flame laser is summoned. This is a good source of runes. It's also nice when she drops a mythic. I reckon the best builds to use here are minion-based. They might well split up and kill the totems quicker and then get back onto her for the killing blow, allowing you to keep an eye on that giant flame laser beam bullshit. Alts. Alts are your extra life. Invest in them as soon as you can. Once you have a satisfactory level of gear, start hoarding your whisper caches to open on your alts. Open 27 caches and bam, that alt is level 60, which that is a bit of a grind, but it only takes 14 caches to hit level 50. Then, with your hand-me-down gear, maybe a lucky mythic, that's only a few strongholds and a hell tide or two away from being a fresh 60. Just saying. It's good to have a backup character for when disaster strikes. My alt choices this season was easy. Spiritborn is so OP, almost every alt was just some variant of the Jaguar Hole Viscous Shield builds. Although it is fun having a minion build for Andriel in Torment 1, that does require a whole other gear set. So it's only worth it if you can manage the stash space. Otherwise, they should be the same class and build as your main, or at least have stats and tempers in common, so that way your alts can get the most out of that hand-me-down gear. Groups. I generally don't bother. I always solo bosses and just laugh at those 400 million gold for a Duriel carry post in trade. Why can't people just do this themselves? Also, I'm on Australian servers, and joining people in the US means my ping goes from 50 to 200, which massively increases my exposure. The downside, I guess, is I got no one to brag to. I'm not saying don't group. Grouping can offer safety in numbers, faster clear times, reducing exposure, and shared knowledge, which can be life-saving in hardcore mode. I just don't, so there. Summary. So, that's it. Limit your exposure, level smooth and steady to 60, leveraging fast XP by completing strongholds. Save your gear for the next generation. Stack as many power increasing activities as possible to progress through the torments. One pit level at a time. Bring your glyphs up at the same rate. Then start preparing the next generation by opening whisper caches on your alts and then using the hand-me-down gear. So I hope you got something out of this guide. Trying hardcore is well worth it if you can mitigate the risks of exposure to the issues that'll kill you. The rush of narrowly avoiding a death that could wipe out days or weeks of effort is among the best available in gaming. My best highs have been in this mode, and also my worst lows. And, well, hopefully this guide makes the game seem more approachable. Stay safe out there.